Hello, welcome to AAA Wargaming for the second battle report of Cardiff and the Welsh Championships that were held in September 22. The second battle report, so we've got another interesting deployment which I'll go through, and this one's against Surrey Nations, and I'll give you three guesses who the opponent is, but you'll only need one because, yes, again, Tommy Tucker and I have been drawn against each other in a tournament. The fact that we drive it was nearly 3 hours due to traffic, and yet we end up against each other again. Maybe we can put something into Tawny Keeper about not being faced against each other. So I've played two consistent opponents, but on the plus side, that doesn't mean I should know more about what I'm doing. Um, so this is Battering Report number 27, and it's round two. So the deployment was a special blind, and I'll talk through that in a minute. The secondary objective was Breakthrough, which made it quite exciting, and against Saurian Ancients. Map wasn't official, but here we go. So it's the blind deployment. So prior to prior to rolling for both sides, the winner can choose side. Basically, prior to the round, players roll for sides. The winner chooses the sides or choose first turn. So those are the two options. So I'd got first turn. No, I didn't realise that. Oh, I play quite defensively with my Pathfinders. Oh no, I didn't. No, because you. So this is the other bit. So both players are given a map of the terrain. Players draw their deployments on in secret. So we didn't really have time to put up lots of boards and stuff, but this made it quite interesting. You had 10 minutes. We didn't. I think Tommy and I did it in a couple of minutes. I mean, there were other people generally thinking about it, and I think we just went there. And this includes any models, including Scout. So Scouts can treat the enemy deployment zone. Scouts treat the enemy deployment zone as an enemy model. So this was if you could deploy 12 inches away in cover or 18 inches without cover, which basically meant you're in your own deployment zone. So Scouts weren't that useful. We knew this going in, but I still think overall Pathfinders are my preferable choice over Centaurs at the moment. Where units do not fit, surrounding units must be nudged to allow the unit to fit in. No centre may cross another unit's centre as per the drawing. A judge will be available if needed. Deployment zones are areas more than 12 inches away from centre line. So normal thing. I think the thing about that last sentence there was, look, none of us are artists. None of us can measure and stuff like that, and that would give it away. So just in the spirit of the game, just if you have a unit left of that unit, keep it left of that unit, and then if you couldn't fit, you'd have to go, okay, we'll put it this side of the terrain and stuff like that. But I didn't hear of anything problems happening. I think we all had a good laugh at everyone's drawing. I think that was quite important. So Tommy rolled and got to choose sides. So he chose the bottom of this picture. So as you can see from my handwriting, I write like a 5-year-old, which my boss absolutely loves. So I very much use a computer now to give him notes. My wife also says it's quite interesting. And I probably should have done this the other way round, thinking about it. But Tommy got the bottom, and that's because on the left you had a house. You've then got a hill, a forest. And sorry, that was just throwing my thing away for the dog. You've then got a. Sorry, we're dog sitting lots of dogs, so I'm actually being climbed over by dogs while making this battle report. So on this side, sorry, we had another forest here. We've had a water feature in the centre here. In another hill, impassable terrain, field, and some ruins. So my thoughts were, there's two options here because you're not just trying to guess your own opponent, you'll guess yourself how you get it into your opponent. You're trying to also guess your opponent. So my thought was, the best way I can do this is somehow guess where he's going to deploy. Now, honestly, I thought he was going to deploy in this area, somewhere here. And I just thought he can deploy in that area, and that way I can either block him coming up for objectives and we somehow get a draw in this. But if he doesn't deploy in that area, I'm just going to put everything on this side. So I've got all three of my Dryades units, the two small ones in sticks and the big ones there. Now, if he deploys in this area, I need to protect them and basically stop his coming forward. So the perfect unit for that are blade dancers, and I just put a forest on this side. So that's what I did. I put it slightly more towards this way in case he was deployed more that way, so I could basically block with my blade dancers and just let my scoring units walk in. And therefore, I've drawn the objective at the very least. So either way, it's a positive step. The only one I couldn't account for in his army was that one unit of Raptor Knights, so I was going to have to try and kill them with my Pathfinders. Other than that, I just tried to put the Heath Hunters in the centre so they could go either left or right, with the Avatar and the Dragon, because I didn't really know, and then the Wild Huntsman on the left. And that was just so if he comes down with the cavalry, I can zone them, and then the Pathfinders in centre and support. In hindsight, as it would show, I should have put the Pathfinders more to the other side, but that was it. I was pretty happy, and then my plan was advance and just make mayhem and try and shoot off his skinks, and seeing if I could get his shoot off his skinks, make sure his cavalry is fixed, and then try and get to his deployment zone. I was expecting him to be on the right with the Raptors on the left as we're looking in this picture. Um, and then we'll go from there. And then I thought it would be a very standoffish game where we're just sort of pushing each other, where his magic is. I've just got to be really careful about his magic, whilst he's got to be careful about my shooting. As it was, sorry, going through his list, probably should have put the. Have I actually? Yeah. So going through his list, the big one is the top one, the Warlord. I don't like that against my avatar. I didn't do the mass in it, which is probably something I should have done. I was just terrified of it against that. I just thought, this is going to be awful, blah, blah, blah. And I just terrified of it because of the D3 wings. The Quattle was probably another dangerous one with Pyromancy. He went for Pyromancy instead of Alchemy this battle, which I thought was the right idea, because it's just those spells. I mean, Fireball, long range, outranges my Pathfinder, so we can just plink them off. I mean, both the units together are nearly 800 points. And it just protects the rest of his army. The other one I was quite concerned about is always his, apart from the Alpha, is also the Taurosaurs, because if they get into my Blade Dancers, I can only choose 3+ Aegis one time, and then his Thunderstomps and other stuff are just going to really quickly grind me down. And the Weapon Master and the Weapon Beast Salamander, I'm very glad he hasn't got two, otherwise I was going to have to deal with them quite a lot. One of them I can work with. And then also his Pterodon sentries with dropping rocks. I've just got to keep them away from the blade dancers. So my shooting, my shooting list priority was probably the Pterodons as usual, just to make sure I get the chaff battle. If I get the weapon beast salamander, if he gets up to it, and then start going for either the Raptor Riders or the Braves just to make sure I can score him. But I've got to get rid of that chaff early because otherwise he can push with his monsters and it mitigates my outranging. So that was it. And then I don't know how I expected it was just going to be a bit of a standoff game between his Alpha Carnosaur and my Avatar, and they weren't really going to do much. I've talked through my list and where it is. I'm really concerned that I just have my Wild Huntsman Pathfinders just taken off by his Pyro, and I was just very concerned about that. The entire so yeah, because once you've got that, you're nearly up to 1200 points. It only takes another couple of units, and it's starting to get out of my range. And then if he gets enough scoring units in, I'm in a bit of trouble. Magic, I went for Master of Earth just because of that unit of that impassable terrain, and I've always and just playing the map. There's a big hill in the middle, so Stone Skin was an obvious one. It just gave me some stuff, and then I had to take Summer's Growth. I thought Healing Waters. My thought here was, do I choose Healing Waters or do I choose the wood just so I have more flexibility? But I didn't expect to move my blade dancers around this lot. I thought they were going to stick in that wood for the entire game, so I chose to take Healing Waters just because he had already selected his spells by this point and he didn't choose Flaming Swords. So I was like, okay, actually there is benefit of Healing Waters in combat here. The next one was his one. So his Pyromancy Master went Fireball, Cascading Fire, Pyroclast, Spark of Creation. So lots of big damage spells, which is very useful for him. I'm very happy he didn't take Flaming Swords, just because it doesn't do well. I mean, if I let it off once at the wrong time, it just devastates my army. And then he had his Adept on Druidism with Oaken Healing Water, Summer's Growth, fully expected. Um, yeah, it's nothing I can do about that. I was just going to have to watch and try and work out when those became a higher priority than Fireball. Probably Healing Waters when he's got in combat with my avatar, because a 5 or a 4+ Fortitude can be a major difference, and Summer's Growth just on his scoring units. So those are the two times I was going to have to watch that, but it's just some difficult choices for me. Spike of Creation can be really damaging to my dragon, less so to my avatar, and then the top three pyro spells are just they're just nails for my army. But that's usual. There you go. Right, so here we have it. And notice something. Tommy is in the corner. So I didn't get a picture of his diagram, but I did get to see a picture of Josh Burns as the next page, and I'm pretty sure he had that many scribbles out. I was like, I have no idea what you've just put there. But so we had a bit of a Josh and I had a bit of a laugh about that one. It was sort of like one of those moments, you know, when you're a kid and you're going, mine's better than yours, blah blah. I think when you're an adult, it's no, mine's worse than yours. No, mine's worse. I'm the worst at art history in this. The irony being that we all paint models and try and make them look nice, but we can't draw to save our lives. It'd be quite interesting if Rob Cousins had done a sort of a collage of all the different maps that everyone had, see who was the best and who was the worst. Um, but yeah, so he's gone into a corner, and my instant reaction was, yes, I'm going to at least draw this objective. Now it's whether I can win it. That was my first thought, and then I thought about it and went, actually, he's still quite mobile. These characters, the only thing I did think about was these monsters here are on the left-hand side of this impassable. If one of them was on this side, that would be okay. But here, they can come this way fairly easy. They don't even need to do it until turn 3, and suddenly they can tie up my units. And they need to kill one of my scoring, and he's got 4 that side, so I was really concerned. So I realised that wasn't as good as I think. But otherwise, the plan's still extant. Blade Dancer's moving to here, blocking action. I could even move up to the next forest to really block it off. Could even move that forward. And then the Dryads just get in there. And then this is army, this part of the army, plus my Wild Huntsmen that are on the right. They were just going to do a delaying action here and try and kill as much as possible. Uh, and that was it. So going through my deployment, I've already gone through it. So we had the small unit Dryads, second unit small Dryads, both of them on the far left, with the right hand Dryads, the big unit Dryads next to them, with the ability to come more round into the centre. I had the Blade Dancers on the left in front of the big unit Dryads, and there was going to go into the 2 forests on the left. I then had my first unit of Heath Hunters, my unit of 9 Pathfinders, the Avatar in front of them, more central, with the other unit of Heath Hunters to the right of them. The Pathfinders, or unit of 10, behind the Dragon, and the right-hand unit of Heath Hunters in the centre. And then I got a Wild Huntsman on the right, sorry. In terms of his army, right to left, he's got the Engine of the Ancients, what's it called? It's Killy Lord, and it's really Killy Lord on a bigger dinosaur, and then his other Taurosaur with the great bow in the center, just so they're getting that 5+ from the Engine of the Gods. He's got his Saurian warriors with the Quattle behind. Both units of Pterodons sat behind the impassable house, so they're there, so I can't see them, and it means he can bring them out when he wants them. The 2 units of Skinks, just in there, getting ready to objective, and then the Raptor Riders there as well. So it's quite boxed up, but don't be fooled by how much reach he has. Something that I completely forgot about throughout the whole thing until the first magic phase of Tom's was the Engine of the Ancients and the rule about symbiosis. I completely missed that one, just because I don't think he hadn't run it with it for a while. In fact, no, he had run it on our last game. So I should have known. Yeah, I just completely forgot. I didn't realise the threat they had. So my turn 1, I think this is one of these. You can see I've brought quite a lot of my army in terms of the Heath Hunters over to the right using Vanguard and that, and the Dragon, quite mobile. What I wanted to do was scare him quite early, and I brought the Blade Dancers up and I put Stone Skin on them. My big thing here was I wanted to protect them as much as possible from any shooting or magic, and because if I can hold them off for 2 or 3 turns, even at range, the skinks are not going to really like this, and they're not going to want to come forward because if I put with them into one of those skinks or even the cold one, the Raptor Riders, I'm going to win on the right. And because his scoring is so boxed up there, that's really in my favour. In terms of the left-hand side, as you can see, I've just started marching my Dryads up. I wasn't able to move the big Dryads up as much as possible just because I needed to create space for the small Dryads, but I wasn't too concerned about that. And you can see the Blade Dancers starting to create that block, but with the ability to move forward. I was starting to think at this point maybe I might have to bring the bigger Dryads further in, but we'll go from there. Because otherwise, it's especially to also support the Dryads. Sorry, I'll start again. I was thinking I was going to have to bring my big Dryads into this area on the left to support the Blade Dancers because if those monsters started coming across turns 1, 2, and 3. But the other part I had was in the center. As you can see here, I've got the avatar going up into the center on the left. So he's heading towards that hill in the middle of the board. And what I really wanted to do was fix him in there. As I said, the only magic was the stone skin I got on the Wild Huntsman. And then I got, and it was, and I got one wound only. My Pathfinders weren't in range pretty much of anything, so I got one wound on the Terror. No, I didn't get any wounds off. I think I maybe did one wound to the one of the Taurosaurs, so it wasn't a great first turn, but I think I'm in a strong position at the moment, and we'll go from there. So what he does on his turn two. So on the right hand side, he doesn't move his skinks and his cold ones up as much, just so the wild hunts are doing their job. But he does move his pterodons forward. So one of them is on the right, in front of my, as far as possible in front of my wild huntsman. It's not 12.1 away from from the Raptor Rider, so there is a possibility, but it is a trap. It's one big trap. He's then got the other pterodons in front of the house, so he's risking them, but with long range and hard target, it's not necessarily going to be a big thing. And they have got a 4+ save, so it's or 3+ save. It's not as easy to kill them as I know. He's then got his Taurosaur, so he's brought one Taurosaur with the great bow round to just the other side of the house, on the left-hand side of the house, so he can shoot at the Wild Huntsman, which he does, but also they're angled. So if my Wild Huntsman go into this Pterodon, I overrun, I hit the Cold One Cavalry, and then he countercharges, and every chance he kills quite a few with his impact hits, even before I've gone to strike, and then he kills me, and yeah, it's not very good. So it's a trap. He's brought his other engine, the Ancients, up just so we can start plinking away at the Pathfinders. And then he's also brought his Lord up onto the hill slightly. So I can't really charge him. I think I was 17.1 or 17. It's a 6 or something like that. But it means I also can't move my avatar to the sides either here or sneak him up quite up. So I've either got to take a risk or I've got to move back or anything else. And because it's a terror or large or whatever, he gets +2 and in charge, so it suddenly makes it really dangerous. And then he's just brought his Quattle up behind and his Salamander there. So on the plus side, his Salamander's not easily going to be able to shoot. On the downside, I can't shoot it, so it's still a threat there, which is a risk to my Blade Dancers or my Pathfinders or something else. In Magic, so in shooting, when he goes through, he's shot. You can see on the Wild Hunts on the right, he shot the Brave through and got 2 of them off. Was that on? I can't remember. Why did I lose 2 there? Or whether actually, no, sorry, it was someone's board was on the right. So there were actually 7 there still, and that didn't happen. But in Magic, in shooting, he didn't do a lot. In Magic, in Magic, he got 5 of my Pathfinders up. They did pass their leadership check because the general's just there. This is the other concern. I realised at this point, I was like, my BSB is on the other side of the board to the majority of my army. That's not good. And he's so far away from the avatar, who I normally like to sit with because of his stubborn. So again, I was like, there's a risk here. And I didn't realise it until this point that I start losing models. So luckily they passed. It was at this point also I realised about symbiosis, and I went, this game's got a lot more difficult, and I don't think I have as much time to degrade his army and go after his shooting as much as I wanted. So I thought I've got to push. Um, at the beginning of this turn, it didn't help. My Wild Huntsman failed their frenzy check. I think I would have. I think I would have done this anyway, so it was irrelevant. I charged the Pterodons, which he held. I did and ah about charging them with my dragon because he was out of terror check range, and I thought if the dragon goes in, it's just a little bit different. It pushes him over. Yeah, just. But I decided it was too big a risk. I didn't. I can't remember why my logic was, but I did think about it. Anyway, so I didn't do it. What I did do though, on the right, was I blocked the Carnosaur on the hill with one of my Heat Hunters units, so I could maneuver my Avatar up. I was quite happy to get charged by one Taurosaur because I was like, "Go on then, what are you going to do? I will kill you." And then I maneuvered my other Heat Hunters in front of the other Taurosaur so that they can flank charge. My thought was, I go in, I hit the Pterodons, and it was only an 8 or a 9. It really wasn't that far to get to the cold ones because if I get there, I hit the cold ones. Yes, he could have all. He could put healing waters up. He could put anything up because they've got a flaming banner. I just go through that unit. I remember with the knights off the charge, so I will go through that unit. And then I overrun and I probably go off the board or then come on and suddenly he's got threats on his skink. So if I get them in there, that's it, game over, I win. I win the objective, I just back off with everything and I just shoot him for 5 turns. Like, that's it. Um, and here I'm pretty happy. On Magic, I get Stone Skin off on the Avatar just in case he charges in, just so that he does pretty much negligible and I can probably beat him in combat with wounds and kill him off. And then shooting, I chose +2. The aim was with he stopped Master of Earth, which was the clever bit. So Master of Earth did not go off on these Pterodons because this is the other bit that I really need to get off. I needed to get rid of this chaff. He stopped that one to let Stone Skin off because I don't think he ever planned to really charge that in a Taurosaur on its own. So he spotted my trap, and then I did get Summer's Growth. Oh no, I got Summer's Growth off and I diced him. So he stopped Token Throne. Yeah, he stopped Token Throne, so I only got 4 back of the Pathfinders. That was it. So he stopped Token Throne, and then I got Summer's Growth off. He had a lot of dice, so I got the unit that was on 4 um, back up to 8, which was good. That was it because we had a 10-7 phase, so I had 10 dice to his 7, so that's why he could stop Oaken Throne and then also have a go at Summer's Growth, but I diced him. And then I got Stone Skin off onto the Avatar, so the Avatar was looking pretty good at the moment. So that was a really good Magic phase. Shooting, I only did 4 wounds to Pterodons in front of the house. As you can see, there's one left, which is really annoying and that, but probably worth it. In terms of movement, you can see on the left just one thing. You can see my dryads and my blade dancers are starting to move into position from left to right. I've decided that I've got to bring them forward as much as possible, quick as possible, in order to support the Avatar, because there will be a time when I lose a combat and leadership 9 on 2 dice just is a bit risky for your general and everything else. So I need to kind of marry this up. I've made a mistake here. I should have put the blade dancers the other side of the ruins and moved everything else quite a bit, because then my pathfinders, this was my mistake. And because then I had flexibility to still move into the forest and still do the same blocking action if he was all on the left, but also I could have moved across here far quicker supporting the Avatar, and this wouldn't have been as risky. Anyway, so that was that. But I'm still getting the Pterodons down, and Pterodons going. Right, combat. Sorry, I keep going the wrong way because my photos, when you select them, are on the other way. Anyway, I absolutely massacre them. I don't even think we rolled. I was like, do you want me to roll them? I mean, it's 22 attacks with battle focus. I think I rolled the hits and he just went no. So they're gone. Overrun. This was the big one. This is going to be it. And no, I think I rolled like a 4 or something like that, and I eventually it was a 4 total. So I only went forward like 2 or 3. It was not good. I was like, we have a problem here now. It's not the end of the world, but I think I'm going to have a more difficult game now. So that was it. So, what happens on his turn? His turn, he's uh, charged there. Sorry, I'll go back some. Should have done. So he's charged. Oh no, hang on. Yeah, sorry, here. So the three charges he makes. He charges the cold ones into my wild huntsman. He charges his Taurosaur into the heath hunters. They pass their panic check. He charges the Carnosaur into them, and he's going to kill. Probably he should kill all three units. So that should be all three units. It's about 800 points, 805 points gone, and not for much gain. And what's worse, because his Pterodon is still alive, he can block with the Pterodon my avatar in the center. So I've lost 800 points for killing 187 of his Pterodons. Admittedly, I failed a frenzy check, so I didn't really have much of a choice. But it's just not good. That was probably the worst bit about it. So it's not looking good this turn. In terms of magic, he kills off 3 Pathfinders, but I got pretty lucky on some of them. He also puts healing waters onto the cavalry. I did say they've got flaming banner, so it's not going to help, but it does play out long term actually. But I did think he thought he was going to wipe my unit out, and he's probably right. I thought they should. In terms of combat though, Wild Huntsmen kill 3 of them. Like fair play, they've absolutely millered them. So they've killed 3 before the cold ones have gone. The Raptors have gone to strike. He does wins because he's I've killed 3, he's killed 3. He's got a banner and charge, so he's up by 2, and I'm away from the BSB. So I'm on a leadership 7, and I fail it. So I run, but I outrun him, so that's okay. And the cold ones are now in charge range of the dragon. So there's some thought here that maybe I can just about rescue this. Anyway, in other news, he kills those heath hunters. I mean, there wasn't going to do so. I've lost that, and he kills them. I don't even think I think he let me roll just to see if I cause a wound, and I just took him off. I mean, it was especially this combat wasn't going well. Um, so I've lost that. So this is my turn 3. Now, what made me stop me trying to charge my dragon in to his Taurosaur was this guy. I was hoping he would turn the Taurosaur to the left here, just so I could, because then I would have charged the dragon into the cavalry, because I think I could have done that. But he sensibly he left it here, zoning me out and just giving me an option. I'm not going to charge there because even if I win combat, he's steadfast, rerollable 9, and rerollable between 9 or rerollable 8, cold-blooded. So sorry, if I charged his Taurosaur with my dragon, which was here at the time, I think, he would have stuck probably. I'd have probably maybe won, but he'd have stuck, and then he counter charge with that, and then my magic's gone, all that. If I got into the cold ones, and I hadn't broken them because a minimized check is always dodgy, then and even then if I'd broken them and I'd not got off the board, I'd have had a impact hits in the flank or it just wouldn't have been pretty. So I decided not to do that. Yeah, so I decided not to do that and just move back and hope my Wild Huntsman can defend it. The other problem with this is he can now charge that straight into the Wild Huntsman. So I'm not really looking forward to this at all at this moment. But otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, I still think the plan's okay. What I can do here is I can go after these with my Pathfinders, but my biggest priority at the moment is making sure that all my shooting from my avatar and my Pathfinders can take this Pterodon out. I need the chaff to go just so I can force him to offer me more valuable units than just chaff if he wants to trap me. So my avatar has moved to the left of the hill in the center, but I can still see him to shoot at him. You can see my Blade Dancer come right off. I know his Flaming Beast is there, but I just need to threaten his flank here of the Saurius and Quattle in the back. And it also brings him into the BSB range of that. I don't think his Flame Beast is going to kill them all. And you can also start to see me bring my big Dryad units around. So this is the other element where my cunning plan for the deployment is less cunning because my units that I really want to bring in threaten are just so far away. So I've really only been fighting him with 2/3 of my army. Even no, sorry. So let's have a think. So it's about 700 points in the Blade Dancer unit, including the BSB. You've got about 400 and something in the Dryer, big junior Dryer. So it's about 1100 points plus the two small. It's about a third. Yeah, it's about a third of my army that's just not been engaged at all. So at the moment, I need to bring them round. So it's taking me about turn three. It's going to take me about turn four before they even start threatening. So what happens in Magic? The other thought I've got is I really want to get Summer's Growth off onto the Wild Huntsman, just so I can get them back up to 7 or at least 6. Because then I think if those cold ones come in, or the Taurus, or maybe I've got a chance. If he rolls low on his impact hits, even though he's got a reroll, maybe I can do something here. Otherwise, if I shoot the Pterodon off, he's still got to come out in the center. And once the Pterodon's off, I can start looking at going. And then my other plan was to then start going for his Skinks. I didn't have a plan for his Pyro at the moment. I still think it's pretty dangerous for me. And then I still didn't have a plan for his big Killy Lord. I was very scared of it with my avatar. But hopefully with the Blade Dancers coming in, I can use them to go after his Saurus warriors and quattle and fix them in there, whilst also messing around and just basically having a standoff between my lord and his lord. Um, nope, Summer's Growth does not go off, but I do kill this guy. So I think I did it with. The Lord, so I think the Avatar killed him off. And then the other thing that happened was I managed to put some wounds with the Pathfinders on the right-hand Taurosaur. I think it was only one wound, so I put a wound on that. Yeah, and that's pretty much the end of my turn. Right, his turn. So he didn't charge the cold ones in because he thought that was wasted effort. He just oh, hang on. I know, yes, I've killed another. This was it. This was the mistake I made. Right, going back to this. Oh no, hang on. Where am I going? Right, yeah, this is it. Yeah, so in this picture, you see there are 4 cold ones. At the moment, he can't line up his Taurosaur. And I'd realised this in my movement phase. And for some reason, my shooting, I got overexcited and I shot one of the cold ones off, which suddenly means there's a gap. That was what this was. I was like, yeah, got one of them off. Now I think that's, and I was mentally, because I'd mentally discounted the Taurosaur because he couldn't line up properly. It was something like that. We'd worked it out or something like that. I'd shot them off. Now he was definitely in without having to charge his cold ones in or something like that. But either way. So he's put the Taurosaur in, and now I'm like, okay, they're definitely gone. I did measure the range, so the dragon can't be charged by the Taurosaur in overrun, so that's good at least as well because they were lined up. So that's tick VG. He's then on the right. You can start seeing he's moving his skinks up. So this is where he's got 3 more turns to get into the objective, which is very doable. And I've got nothing here really apart from the dragon that can take them on. The Pathfinders are just going to have to do some work, but the Pathfinders themselves are terrified of his magic at the moment. He's left his cold ones where they are, but that's no problem. They've got plenty of movement, and that's it. On the left-hand side, he's manoeuvred his Taurosaur with Enter the Ancients to support his Warlord, and he's facing off against my Avatar. He's moved his Salamander out to threaten my Blade Dancers, and he's just going to give it basically to chaff them whilst also shooting them. So I'm going to lose probably at least the back rank of Blade Dancers in this next one. And then he's got his Saurus Warns. So his Saurus are still trapped in by this beastie, which is a positive thing. But he can start to see these units. So I'm going to have an interesting time with Pyro. Oh, so this was his turn. So it was a Pyroclastic Flow. He just got off, and I'd held 4 dice for it. and those were my dice rolls. So I looked and went, I don't think I've stopped you there, because he rolled the six, and I was like, yeah, four dice. And then we rolled them and looked and went, yeah, there's definitely three ones there. Um, so yeah, and then and that took the unit off. So that is one of my Pathfinder's units gone, which I'm really concerned about because I needed them to start whittling down the skinks and see if I can get rid of one of them at least, because then I know at least I've drawn the objective, which is good news for me. He's then done some more magic because I've thrown all my dice at that and killed three of my Pathfinders here in the center, so they're down to seven. He blows away. He only blows away five. He didn't roll well for this actually, so I was pretty happy with that. I don't think I saved any, but I was like, okay, that's one better than I thought I was going to get in on that. So I was pretty happy with that. Um, and then yeah, I think he took the unit off with impact hits. Even I don't think I even got to strike with the Wild Huntsman. So that's again. So I've lost 800 points this turn. I've lost all my chaff. I've lost one of my Pathfinder's units, and my Blade Dancers are nearly down to half strength already. So it's not looking great. And yeah, that was it. And the magic, he, so on top of those two spells, he's also managed to get Summer's Growth off onto the cavalry and regrown a few, which is why there's a few more on the table. Whilst they've got Oaken thrown off, so it's they're nearly back to full strength. So all the work done by the Wild Huntsman was not helpful. My turn. So I've decided I've got to take some risks here, so I charge my avatar into his big killy lord. I was like, "Yep, come on then, let's do this. Hooters, it's all on you." Two cool models. I think we were joking about whether this would be a really cool fight to happen, but we didn't think it would because it's too dangerous for both of us in some ways. You can also see I've charged my blade dancers in the front, but then I took a risk here. I thought, do I move my dryads into there, up, or do I charge them and take a risk? And I decided to take a risk and charge because I can still easily move them into the scoring zone, but also this is an easier way to get them into the fight quicker because I can do this and then I overrun them and turn five their threat he has to deal with them from his turn four, otherwise I can start threatening his back. So this was a lucky one for me, and I got in. In terms of wild a bit, what I did here was I moved the dragon up. My intent was to flame the skinks whilst also shooting them on the right with my pathfinder. So I was going to ignore these two, and what I was going to hope, my big hope, was that the Taurosaur would go after my pathfinders to push them away. The cavalry would just go into the center, and then next turn I could start messing about with these and charge them and kill them off. And that was my plan with the dragon. I was risking big points to win the objective. In terms of magic, though, my other one was priority in magic was also to help the avatar, and I could think of two spells that I really need to get off. I really need Oaken thrown off, but if not, there were two spells. Yeah, sorry, if there was Oaken thrown off, there was two spells because a 4+ Fortitude would be really, really good. If not, there was one spell which was Stone Skin that I needed to get off. I could cast both from. I couldn't cast from the dragon, but I could cast from the water feature behind the avatar and this hill in the center. So this is going to be it. The other thing I should have done is possibly threatened more and decided Oaken Throne, and then done a Master of Earth on one of the skinks or Stone Skin and given him that juicy option to try and kill this. But on turn four, it was a 9/6 phase, a 9/6, so it's possible. So what happens is I get Stone Skin off with Oaken Throne, but he stops Master of Earth, I think. Or I dice him on Stone Skin, I just fail to cast Master of Earth, something like that. In shooting, I've managed to whittle him down quite a bit. So I flame him down, so I've killed and shoot him off, and I killed about 10. Um, one thing that did, yeah, so I've killed about 10. So he's down about 5. So he's got 5 skinks left. So it's perfectly doable to kill them in the next round. So that was really successful. So I'm pretty happy with that. And that was the magic. So in combat with this, so firstly with the salamander, I massacre the salamander. I choose not to overrun with the blade dancers because I didn't want to get countercharged next turn out of a forest with a Taurosaur, because with impact hits and everything else, even with the 3+ ages, I think at the very least he doesn't lose by a lot, or he wins and the next turn he wipes me out before I can kill him potentially. So I didn't really want that. So I chose the Dryads, and also they did a massive overrun. It was like 10 inches, and now they're on the hill. They're looking at his Saurus. He with his Quattle, he's got to charge it in. So hopefully I can fix that Taurus for another couple of turns. And now the BSB can support both the Avatar and the Dryads, and that's really good. In combat, I do 2 wounds to him and he does 1 to me. So it's just he's wounding on 6s. He's even with his reroll 1s to wounding to hit in combat, it's just not going for him. So I'm just taking him apart slowly on this one. So I was really happy with that because that means I've got Stone Skin. He's wounding on 6s for another turn. I can take some more wounds off. And if I'm honest, that was with me rolling pretty poorly to hit. I think I only hit of 6 attacks hitting on 3s. I only hit 3 times, which is not great. But then I wounded, and then I wounded twice and on 3s, and he didn't save either of them. I don't think he's got a save even because it goes from 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's it, straight gone. So I'm feeling I'm more confident there now. So this is his turn. So his choices. So he does charge the Taurosaur into my Dryads on the top center because he had to. He moves the Saurus into the center out of the way because he can't risk it in case I win. Then he overruns the flank. It also means he's threatening my dragon whilst. And he's also pinned it, so I can't even charge my dragon into the Saurus because then I get a whopping great Taurosaur on the right. You can see this thing here. So this is what I was hoping he wouldn't do, which was face back in. So I was hoping I could kind of distract him with my Pathfinders, but that wasn't the case. Also looks like I got... Oh, I know what spells I did last turn. Sorry, I did Stone Skin, which he failed to stop, so then I cast Summer's Growth, and I got these lot back, so there's unit 10, and that's why that was probably more dangerous, because I remember rolling quite low for the breath weapon. It wasn't great, so it's mostly that. But anyway, also these two have moved out of the way of my dragon, so they can't get charged, and now he's got 3 units that can move into my deployment zone. And actually, I've only got 2 at this moment in time. My Dryads, who could be fixed there for the rest of the game, or even lose, because of thunderstorms and stuff, are now not in his deployment zone. So there's a risk here. But I'm not overly unconfident because they've only got 5 left. I've only got to kill 5 over a couple of turns with 10 Pathfinders. That's easy. That's really easy. So I'm going to lose the objective here, but the risk is I lose a lot of combat units and I lose the game in between here. Okay. So in spells, he doesn't do much, but in spells, he does kill a few more Pathfinders off. He does put some wounds, I think, on the dragon. No, not this turn. But then in combat, he kills loads of Dryads with the Taurosaur. I think I do a wound back to him, but they stick with a Leadership 9 reroll. He does no wounds to me, and I do another wound. You can see on the Carnosaur here. So this is the back end of his and first turn of mine. You can see in the Carnosaur here, I only do 1 wound. So again, I roll badly. I only get 1 wound through, which was a bit disappointing because I was hoping to get him down to 2 wounds this turn and just then I can kill him in my turn at the very least. And yeah, but otherwise, yeah, it's going well. So in my turn, I've got this choice here. So now what I do is I'm like, right, I've got to kill this unit of 5 skinks because then I can at least draw the objective because he's not going to get to my 2 units of small Dryads by this point. So what I do is I think about how I can use the dragon. Can I block them in case they don't? But I just can't because between the Taurosaur, the Cavalry, and the Saurus, I don't want to get charged by any of them. So I've just got to move back into this field here. So what I do is I manage to get Oaken thrown off and I get Summer's Skin off again. I'm pretty Stone's Growth again off on there. In shooting, I get them skinks. I kill the skinks. No, sorry, I don't kill the skinks in my thing, but I cause a panic check, and they fail a re-rollable cold-blooded check. But their generals over here, so these ones re-roll a cold-blooded check, and I can't remember. I think they were out of range of the general. They run off the board because they're running away from the closest enemy, well, where the shots come from, which is the Pathfinders. So he's run off the board. These are out of general's range, or they might be in general's range, but these are definitely out. And they fail their panic check, and I think they were also out of the BSB, and they run off the board. And suddenly, that's game over on objective. He's not got a lot of turns left to get Saurons in. I think I can block them off with the dragon, and he's only got the cold ones. And that was really unlucky of Tommy. Otherwise, I think he'd have won this game. Yeah, that pretty much ended the game there, I think, in my favour. So I think I played this turn well in terms of the right magic and making sure I can win that combat in the centre. The only thing I didn't do right, and I don't know why, I just thought about leaving the Blade Dancers there because I couldn't move through that gap there, but I wanted my BSB to do this. What I should have done was move them over to this side, and because I'd be able to still support them, and it also means I could threaten here. So if he starts moving these forward, I can charge them, and that's what I should have done, or even supported here, supporting the flank charge here, and just provided some more combat rares or anything like that. So that was my only error on this turn, I think. Yeah, you can see it here. This is them going off, including his wizard as well. So he's not got any more druidism to heal his monsters and stuff like that. So it's not gone well. So that's a lot of points. In combat, he kills another 4 of my dryads. I'd probably do another couple of wounds on him, but otherwise stick. And then in this game, he gets 2 wounds through on me, and I do a wound. I do another 2 wounds to him. So again, I was doing the maths on this. So I should get 4 and 3. So I should do, on average, 3 wounds a turn, I think. So I should have killed him by now. I've had 3 turns of this. So yeah, I should do 3 wounds a turn. So I should have killed him. So I'm a little below average, but I'm still pretty confident that I can now kill him in his turn 5. And unless he starts moving those, well, he's got the Saurus and the Taurosaur there, so I'm pretty confident with that. Here's turn 5, and this is why I should have moved my Blade Dancers over. You can see with the Blade Dancers here, he wouldn't have been able to do this. I think that would have been too risky, and he'd have had to sit there behind the hill or even move this way. But it just means he's got lots of flexibility. He sensory images cold run rounds to threat my dragon, so I have to move away. And yeah, so he's moved his cold ones around to do that. His Taurosaur is still looking into the center, and that's just because I think he's out of arc, or we just agreed out of arc ball. So I don't think I want to charge that because then his cold one cavalry kill me. His Quattle is easily in range of my Pathfinders, which I had to take a risk on. There's nothing I can do about that because I had to bring them in range of the Skinks, but they've done their job. They've won. They've done good on the objective for me. Yeah, and this was the only thing I was a bit like, should have done better there. And then otherwise over to Magic. I think Magic, he put Spark of the Creation on my dragon, put 2 wounds on it, which I was okay with because with Druidism, that's going to be 5 wounds left shortly. And then in combat, so he struck first. I still had Stone Skin off, and he puts 2 wounds through, and he kills me. So he's killed me. So I'm like, bugger. Now what? So now it's all on me to see if I still get to attack back because it was, I can't remember. Might have been his Lord that killed me. But no, his Lord didn't, but his Carnosaur did. And I'm at the same agility as Carnosaur, so we got to hit at the same time. So I still got to attack back, so I just let him finish. And I did it, which was a relief because I didn't want a Carnosaur running around on 1 wound because that's actually not that easy to kill. And yeah, no, we did each other in, so I think both of us were pretty happy with the result. Him slightly less so because his monster is worth about 200 more, so I think mine is about 785, his is about 1085 with the 200 points each for general. So I've come out that best. I've tied up his big mobile character, which probably saved a lot of my scoring. I'm pretty happy about that. It's also now opened up my Blade Dancers a bit to move onto that hill or do anything else, but so there we're good. Yeah. And now into the center here. So this is my turn 5. My turn 6. Oh, sorry. One last thing on combat. His Taurosaur didn't do very well, and my Dryads did. They did a lot of good, and he ran. I didn't catch him, so he's left on 2 wounds. I managed to beat him, which I was pretty happy with. Then in Magic, I think I forgot how many turns were left or something like that, but I moved my Blade Dancers up like that for some odd reason. I can't remember why. I really, really can't. They couldn't do anything there. Maybe I think it was to make sure I had BSB in range, or so, I don't know. But I also managed to get Summer's Growth off from the Dryads. I think I was trying to make sure they could realign, or so, I don't know. I was trying to get them into the deployment zone. And then the last thing I also did was block off his Saurian warriors in the center with my dragon, so that he couldn't get into the deployment zone or had to go a really weird route. Uh, Otherwise, there was no combat. In his turn, he smashed his. It did mean I was going to have to risk his Taurosaur, so he smashed his Taurosaur into my dragon. He just had his cold ones there because there was nothing else he could do. And then he moved his Quattl out and his Sauron's back, and it was just so that his Quattl was going to blast my Blade Dancers on final turn. He also rallied his Taurosaur, so and it's not down to one wound, so I'm not going to get any points for the Taurosaur. The Dryads did well fighting. I'm not going to get any. And now it's about, is my dragon going to survive? It's a flank. It's charged in a flank. It's possibly going to cause some wounds, but I've got to be a re-rollable check with the BSB there, as long as the BSB survives the magic phase. Now that's a big one. Uh, and then I've got the Dryad, so, but I've got the objective, which is good. So this is going to come down to this. So his magic starts. What did he get in the final magic phase? I can't remember. But he starts his first spell off, kills 3. I think I was waiting for something. I stopped them Pyroclastic Flow, because that was going to be the big one. And then he puts another one in and kills 4. So he's got half points for the Blade Dancers, but my BSB is still there. So that's important. So the BSB is still there for the final combat. He charges in, he does lots. He only does 2 wounds to the dragon. So he's up by a flank, a charge. Does he get a big flank? I think he has big flank 3 plus 2 wounds. I think I did a wound back to him, so he's up by 4. So I had a re-rollable 4. And he sticks. And that ends the game. So that's it. It's been a really bloody game. I've got 2 Dryads off on the left in the scoring zone, so I've won the scoring. I've got my Dryads in the centre, the remnants of my Blade Dancers and BSB, my Dragon, and my Pathfinders. And he's got both his Taurosaurs, his Quattl, his Saurians, and his Cold Ones. So we, again, another bloody game with not much left on the board. Yeah, so we're going to go from there. And then next, interestingly, I think if we'd had another turn, he'd slaughter me. So if this game was 7 turns long, I think he'd win. Yeah, I think that's the truth. Anyway, right, so ending up, he's killed my Avatar, a loss of Chaff, half on Blade Dancers, my Wild Huntsman, and one of my units of Pathfinders for 2,158. You can see there, yeah, so I've got Sauron Warlord and 200 points for there, his Sking Priest, both units of Skinks, his Pterodons and his Weapons Beast. So apart from his Lord, I've very much got his sort of more Chaffian units, but it adds up to 2129. So the difference is only 29 points, which means they're 10-10. But because I've got the objective, it's a 13-7 to me. So a great game. I think Tommy was unlucky. I think if those Skinks had probably done the average and at least one of them had stayed on the table, he'd have at least drawn the objective. So he should have got at least a 10-10 and potentially even won it. So I think, yeah. So that's the way it probably should have ended a 10-10 this game. But yeah, no. So I'm on 13-7. I won 13-7, so I'm on 22 points, which is not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. I'd set myself a target of 40 over this tournament just because I've been doing pretty badly up till now. And I just wanted to see if I could get that 40 mark. So I'm over halfway there after game 2. Yeah, pretty happy. Going on to game 3, where I was to play Lucky Sixes from Proxy Table Gaming, and he'd taken a highborn elf list, which was really shooty, so you'll have to see on his channel. Interestingly, game 1, Lucky Sixes played Tommy Tucker, and they put up that video a couple of days ago. It's really good to watch. Yeah, again, another very bloody game, but good fun all the same. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a good weekend.